to show you how to do the activity on IXL that says compare fractions with like numerators or denominators. The first thing I want you to notice is that the directions on each problem might be different. So this question is asking which fraction is less. Pay attention because the next question might ask which fraction is greater. So let's start with this one, which fraction is less. So the first thing I want you to notice is whether it's the denominator or the numerator that is the same number. Each of these questions will have one that's the same between the two options. In this example, it's the denominator that's the same. In both 2/3 and 1/3, the denominator is 3. So just as a quick review, the denominator is how many sections or parts the whole is broken into. For example, in this circle, you'll notice that this circle has 3 distinct sections. Now the numerator is how many of those sections we actually have. So we have third size sections, but we actually only have 2 of them. So, oops. Excuse me as I figure this out. Okay, so for 2/3, we have 1, 2. That's 2 out of these 3 sections. And then with this other one, we have a 1/3. That's 1 out of the 3 sections. You can also think about it in terms of a number line. If I'm going from 0 to 1, and I have 3 distinct sections, so I have 3 steps between 0 and 1, 3 equal steps. There's 1 step is 1/3, and 2 steps would be 2/3. Oh, excuse me. So which one is greater? Which one takes up more of the whole? Well, it's 2/3. This question asks which fraction is less. Well, if you only have 1/3, you only have 1 out of the 3 pieces it takes to make up 1, so I only have 1 versus having 2. So if the denominators are the same, then whatever numerator is less is the one that is less. So if the denominators are the same, it's pretty straightforward. Just compare the top numbers, and what the lower number is the fraction that is less. This one is the same type of question, so the denominators are the same. You have 8 for the denominator for each. The question asks which fraction is greater, so because the denominators are the same, then you have 2 pieces that are 8th size pieces, or do you have 4 pieces that are 8th size pieces? Well, 4 is more than 2. 4/8 is the greater fraction. This is the same one. You have the denominators are the same. They're in 8ths. You have 1/8 versus 6/8. 6/8 is greater because 6 is more than 1. Which fraction is less? So now the question is the opposite question, but still the denominators are the same. So what's less? 2 or 3? 2 is. 2/6 is less. Now we're getting into some tricky ones, because now we're asking which fraction is greater, 4/8 or 4/6. Well, here's what's difficult. When the numerators are the same, the rule is actually reverse of what you would expect. The lower the denominator, when the numerators are the same, the higher the amount of the whole. So let's see if I can demonstrate this for you. If I have a whole and I break it into 6 pieces, So let's try to demonstrate this. If I have a whole and I have it broken into 6 pieces, so I have this whole pizza and I have it broken into 6 pieces, 6 equal pieces, and I have 4 of those pieces. Each of these pieces is 1/6 of the pizza, and I have 4 equal pieces, and that's what I mean when I say 4/6. If I have another pizza and I break it into 8 pieces, these pieces are actually smaller because I have more pieces, but I have the same amount of pizza. So each of the pieces have to be smaller, right? Like let's say if you're gonna share a pizza with more people. If I have just 2 people and I'm sharing the pizza, then each of us get an entire half of a pizza. But if I have to share that pizza between 12 people, each of us is gonna get a pretty small slice. It's the same idea. In this case, we've got 6 pieces, cut it into 6 pieces, and cut into 8 pieces. When it's cut into 8 pieces, it's actually cut into smaller pieces. Now, if I eat 4 of those smaller pieces, I'm actually eating less pizza than if I'm eating 4 of those 6 bigger pieces. So when the numerators are the same, you might want to write this down. When the numerators are the same, the denominators, the smaller the denominator, the larger the number. So when the numerators are the same, a smaller denominator is a larger number, and a larger denominator is a smaller number. You can kind of think of this dividing line between the numerator and the denominator as being kind of the dividing line between a reflection or a shadow world. When the numerators are what you're comparing, everything makes sense. It's all above ground. When the denominators are what you're comparing, it just kind of goes topsy-turvy. It's the opposite of what you'd expect. So going back to this problem, which fraction is greater? It's actually 4/6 because the numerators are the same, and the denominators, we want the smaller denominator because bigger pieces, there are bigger pieces when there's less of them. How about this one? Which fraction is less? Well, the numerators are the same. The numerators are both 1. The denominators are what's different. So we're looking for the denominator that is going to be smaller amount of the smaller slice. It's going to be 1/8 is less than 1/3. Think about it. It takes 8 1/8 to make a whole, and it only takes 3 1/3 to make a whole. It takes a lot more because they're smaller. Which fraction is greater, 5/8 or 5/6? Remember, topsy-turvy world where we're comparing denominators, 6 is actually going to be greater than 8 in this upside down world. Which fraction is less? It's going to be 1/8 because 8 is on the denominator and it's a bigger number. So it's going to be a smaller number. It's going to be 1/8 is smaller. And now they've switched it on us again, where the denominators are the same and the numerators are what we're comparing. Now we're all above ground. Now it's simple. 1 versus 4. Which one is less? 1 is always less than 4. So just pay attention. Pay attention to what question they're asking, because they're asking which fraction is greater in some of the questions, and they're asking which one is less in some of the other ones. And pay attention to whether you're comparing the numerators or the denominators. If the numerators are the same, then you're comparing the denominators, such as in this question. But if the numerators were different and the denominators were the same, then it would be the numerators that you're comparing. So it's a little bit of a head scratcher. Take your time and just make sure to read carefully.